Hi, welcome. If you can hear me, would you let me know in the chat box, please? Okay. Hey, Tracy. Hey, Danielle. Awesome. Looks like we're good to go. So now you should be able to see me as well. Welcome. I'm so excited you're here for our kindergarten only webinar. Not kindergarten only, but focused just on kinder. A lot of my webinars focus on K2, so I'm really excited to focus just on kindergarten with you tonight. Only do these twice a year, so these are extra special. While we're waiting for everybody to kind of come on in the room, we've got a couple minutes. I would love to know where in the world you are, and also I guess if you don't teach kindergarten, let us know what you do teach, because I know sometimes we have reading specialists or special ed teachers or interventionists. So if you don't teach kinder, let us know what you teach. Hi, Laura in New Jersey, Elizabeth in Tennessee, Victoria in Canada, welcome. Jennifer in Nebraska, hey, Debbie, Kelly, Donna. Brenda says, hey, y'all from South Texas. Hey, Brenda, Claire, Aubrey, Crystal, Susan, welcome. Shannon in San Fran. I love San Francisco. Kim, welcome. Judy, it's going fast. Heather, welcome. Stephanie, I know I'm missing people, sorry. Hey, Kelsey in Illinois. Katie in McHenry, I know where that is. Welcome. Manopriya, welcome. Brittany, another Tennessee teacher, awesome. Hawaii, Jen in Chicago, welcome. Katie says, wow, comments are going super fast. I know I'm like missing people, trying to say hello to everybody. Hey, Chantel. Hey, Suzanne. So by the way, if you are having trouble commenting, my recommendation is just to kind of wait and see if the chat frees up. Hopefully it will. For some reason, it's a software issue, and I've talked to them. Sometimes the chat locks up and people can't chat, which I hate because I know that's frustrating, but do know that I know you're here. You're still entered in the giveaway, which I'll talk more about soon. But I do get a list of everybody who's here. So if you can't chat, I will still know that you're here. So no worries about that, but fingers crossed that everybody is able to chat with us tonight. Hey, Heidi, Yesenia, welcome. Felicia in Alabama, welcome. Jessica in Missouri. Sabrina in Toronto. Got a couple of Toronto teachers. There's Wendy, another one. Elizabeth in Ontario. Deborah, Heather, welcome. Tiffany, Danielle, interviewing for a kindergarten position tomorrow. Good luck. I moved up from pre-K to kindergarten a long time ago. Alyssa, welcome. Dion, welcome. Kay, hey, Kay, welcome back. You're so sweet. Hey, Michelle, Adriana. We got another Hawaiian teacher. A little bit jealous. Hey, Brandy. Lynn's, so somebody's saying the video is restricted. Hey, Sue in Memphis. So if your video is restricted, try a different browser, Google Chrome, or even a different device. Just typing that for anybody who's having issues. Hey, Robin in Georgia. Hey, Terry in Michigan. Nancy says, I've never seen the chat go so fast. Oops. My Siri's just talking to me about Michigan. And Siri gave me directions to Michigan. Thanks, Siri. I'm not interested right now. Anyway, Lourdes, welcome. Christine, welcome. Carissa, welcome. Elizabeth, lots of good luck wishes to our teacher who's interviewing for kinder. So exciting. Shannon, student teaching, awesome. Caroline, welcome. Hey, Shelly in Arizona. All right, we've got teachers from all over. Hey, who is that in Lake Zurich? I know where that is. Marita's in Nashville, like me. Hey, Marita. Chelsea. Ashley, welcome. Hey, Jackie, welcome back. That's Dawn in Lake Zurich. Hey, Linda, moving to pre-K from third for my second year of teaching. Awesome. Arlington Heights, I know that too, Sherry. Chastity, first year in kindergarten. Good luck, Chastity. All right, well, it's that time, so I want to respect your time and go ahead and get started. I have lots to share with you. So again, thank you for being here. I'm super excited to really get to focus on kindergarten tonight and talk about the things that I do at the very beginning of the school year to set my students up for success all year long. A couple of housekeeping items. I will go ahead and share the first slide of my presentation with you, so you should be able to see that in a second. There we go. Just a couple of housekeeping things. Hopefully it's tech smooth sailing for us tonight. Should something go wrong, there should be a reconnect button on your end. They recommend the Google Chrome for the software. If you can't chat, as I said before, I apologize. Unfortunately, there's nothing really that I can do, even that the software people can do. So I apologize if that happens to you, but do know that I have a list of everybody who's here live, and you'll still be able to participate in the giveaway, so no worries about that. But I apologize if the chat isn't working. Let's see. Should we lose connection for any reason, use that reconnect button. I'll always have a backup plan to come back and be with you. Another important thing to know is that there's a delay. So whatever you're hearing me say right now, I actually said 20 seconds ago. So just keep that in mind with the chat. Speaking of the chat, you've probably noticed there are a lot of teachers in here, and I'm so excited you're here. That does mean that the chat scrolls quickly, and I will miss things, and it's absolutely not intentional, not ignoring you, but I will miss things. So I'll stop periodically, I'll come back, answer questions, and at the end, I ask anybody who's asked a question that I missed, I'll just ask you to retype it, because then it's a lot easier to answer them once the presentation's over, but I will stop periodically, as I said. Let's see. Oh, do feel free to use the chat box too, add on to what I'm saying, ask questions. A lot of experienced teachers are in our little virtual room here, and I appreciate what you have to share as well. So feel free to use that chat box or ignore it, totally up to you. And I think that's all I wanted to say for housekeeping things. So I feel like I know a lot of you. So if you've been on a webinar with me before, welcome back. And I am excited that you're back for more. If we don't know each other, welcome for the first time. My name is Allison, and I'm a reading specialist. Before I was a reading specialist, I was a pre-K teacher and a kindergarten teacher and a first and second grade teacher. So my focus is really primary. Taught kindergarten for the most years in the classroom, the majority of my years in the classroom, and kindergarten is my favorite grade to teach. As I said, now I'm a reading specialist. I live in the suburbs of Nashville, and I teach at a small private school with my husband, Jonathan, and we have two little fur babies, Max and Lindsay. And in my free time, I love to be outdoors. So I love summertime. I love hiking, kayaking, and all that good stuff. So that is me. But I also wanted to share a little bit about why I do these webinars and my blog and my Teachers Pay Teachers store. As I said, I do work part-time in my reading specialist job so that I have more time to spend supporting all of you and other teachers with the webinars, Learning at the Primary Pond, which is my blog, and my TPT store. And the reason I'm so passionate about helping other teachers is because so many times, especially in the classroom, I've really struggled with just being a teacher. And I felt like I didn't have the resources I needed or the information I needed, and just struggled with feeling overwhelmed and stressed out and feeling like no matter how many hours I put in, it was never enough for my students. You can let me know if you identify with that. So that's why I do these webinars and everything else that I do. Not because, I have this teaching thing down pat, because I certainly don't, but because I want to share what I've learned with you, because if I can help you skip over a struggle that I've been through and, get to the other side to help you, serve your students better and just be happier in your job, I want to do whatever I can to do that. So that's why I do this. I love what I do. So tonight, I'm going to be sharing what I feel are the most impactful things that I do with my kindergarten students in the first weeks and months of the school year. So if you've already started, no worries. This isn't like necessarily like first or second week stuff. Like, these are things that I do all year long, but I'm going to be talking mostly about the, first weeks and couple of months of the school year. And the things that we're touching on tonight, these aren't all the things that I do in my literacy block for sure. But what I wanted to do was choose the most, I would say, the things that make the biggest impact in helping my students start to view themselves as readers and writers, to get them understanding why reading and writing matter, and also to start developing those early literacy skills. So I pulled out what I felt was the most important stuff, even though I know that you're doing other things in your literacy block for sure. And the strategies that I pulled out, I organized them into 4 little categories. The first one that we're going to be talking about is say it, write it, read it. Then supercharge your shared reading, power up with phonics, lay a phonological awareness foundation. And so those are the 4 strategies. And you may have noticed in my emails, I was mentioning a giveaway for everybody who's here live. Make sure that you can stick around to the end because the giveaway prize is especially big tonight. I just this morning opened up my kindergarten literacy club for new members, and I only open up for new members a couple of times a year. And so the giveaway prize is going to be a 6-month membership to the kindergarten literacy club. So that would give you access to a ton of resources immediately, but also new resources, new professional development, and support every month. So I'm super excited to share that with you and also give away some 6-month memberships. So make sure you can stick around to the end. I will do my best to stick to an hour. And then also do know that if you can't chat, like I do have a list of everybody who's here live. So I'll still know if you're live at that time. So no worries about that. At the very end, also, I will be sharing my freebie with you. I'll, show you a couple of things throughout tonight that are going to be in your freebie, but these are just some materials to help you implement what I am talking about. And then also at the end, I will be answering questions. So if I do miss your question at some point, definitely save it, retype it, and we will chat at the end. Alrighty, so that is the plan. Let's start with strategy number 1, which is say it, write it, read it. Oh, and by the way, too, just before we really get going, whether you have never taught kindergarten in your life or you've been teaching for 20 years, I do feel like I've stuck things in here that will be helpful to both, hopefully. If you've never taught kindergarten ever, this will hopefully give you a feel for what teaching kindergarten is like and the types of things that you can do. And then for my teachers who've been teaching for a while, there's going to be some strategies and ideas in here, and also the freebie, of course, that you can hopefully pull out and add to all the wonderful things that you are already doing. All right, so say it, write it, read it. One of the most powerful things that we can do for our students is to listen to what they say and write it down for them and then help them read it. And so during the first few months of kindergarten, I make these say it, write it, read it activities a big priority. There's a lot of different ways to do them, and I'll show you some examples. But it's so meaningful and fun for them to see, their words written down, and it really helps them make that connection and understand how reading and writing work. So when you create like a shared chart or a piece of writing together, there's so many different follow-up activities that you and the kids can do with the text also. So I'm going to show you in this little strategy section how I do the say it, write it, read it activity, but also activities, even more activities that can come out of it. So this doesn't have to be something you do in 10 minutes and it's done. This is something where you can make centers out of it. There's so much potential. So I'm going to show you a concrete example of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about say it, write it, read it. And I'll also show you the activities that can come from your original, shared little writing together. Okay, so when you're doing one of these activities, which I'm typically doing whole group, everybody's on the rug and I've got like a piece of chart paper. I don't want to do it on the board because I want to save it and use it in the future. So first, what you're going to want to do is you'll choose a focus topic or a sentence frame or just kind of some theme for your writing activity. And in this example, this is just a photograph of like an example chart. I had the kids think of something they like that starts with the same letter as their first name. So Addison likes apples, for example. Addison and apples start with A, so that's why she picked apples. And you can get them thinking about this even before you do the chart, you can read an alphabet book just to kind of get them thinking of things that start with their letter. You could even ask them as homework. It takes 2 seconds, just like write a little note to families and say, hey, like tonight, would you have your child think of something that they like that starts with the same letter as their first name? So then they kind of bring it to school the next day. It's just helpful if you get them thinking of an idea before you start the actual writing activity. So to start the activity, you sit down with the entire class on the rug in front of you and you introduce the topic and you call in one child. And that child's job is to say aloud a sentence that you will write on paper. And you might need to provide some support for them in coming up with the sentence, but try to give them as much say as possible because you really do want, their words to be what's going on the chart. And so then once you have the sentence figured out with the child, have the whole class repeat it before you even write it. So if Addison says, Addison likes apples, okay, boys and girls, then everybody says Addison likes apples. Then while the kids are watching right there, you're going to write the sentence in front of them. You're not starting with the chart like this. You're starting with blank paper. So Addison likes apples, period. I always like to say period at the end when I make it. And I'm modeling 2 fingers space between the words. And, you might say something like, oh, I'm starting my sentence with a capital letter. But when you're writing that sentence, you're not like digging too far deep this time. You're not talking about all the letters and, all the letter formation. You're not getting into the details there. And you can talk about that stuff later. But as you're going to see, it would take too long if you do that for every sentence. So you just kind of keep it short. You write the sentence and that's it. And another thing I like, and I didn't draw it on this example chart, I think I just forgot, is I like to draw a little picture. So I might draw like a little picture of an apple by Addison Likes Apples. That's another nice thing that you can do as well. So then, as you can probably predict or imagine, I repeat that same thing for every child in the class. And now if you have more than like 8 to 10 students, like this can take a while. But what I'll do in the middle is we'll do half the kids and then we'll take a movement break, or like maybe they'll go to a special class and then we'll come back and we'll finish it. I don't really like to break it up over 2 days because especially at the beginning of the year, some of the kids might get upset about, am I going to get on the chart? But it's nice to have some kind of movement or break in between because it's a lot to do in one sitting. Could even do it before lunch and then they go to lunch and then they come back and finish. Okay, so as soon as I'm finished with the chart, then what I do is I'll chorally read it with the kids, meaning that we're all reading it. I'm reading it and they're reading it along with me. And then I will, while we're doing the reading, I'll typically use a pointer because we're working on one-to-one pointing. We read it all together and then the lesson's done. We're not going to do anything else with it because it took quite a while to actually make the chart. So then the next few days, what I like to do is do some extension activities as a whole group. You can also work in a small group setting with some of these activities or give the kids tasks to do independently that use the chart. But whole group works as well. It just, I know at the beginning of the year, we're not always doing a lot of small group yet or independent stuff, but these extension activities, you can have them do as a whole class, small group, or on their own. Generally, I plan to use the chart at least 2 or more times. So if you remember, let me click back to this slide. This chart says, and hopefully the slide is matching what I'm saying, this was written on chart paper. And I tried to figure out, I'm pretty sure that when I did this, I would figure out alphabetical order for the kids. And that's how I would go down the list. So it was alphabetized. But you can always like rewrite it later for sure. But then if you can see on this second slide with the little pocket chart, that was the chart that we created. But then what I did is I took that chart, I took those sentences, I put the same sentences on sentence strips and I cut the words apart so that they could see that they were individual words, and so we could talk about spaces between words too. And when I rewrote it onto sentence strips, I wrote the first letter in their name in red, and I also wrote the first letter of the word in red because we're talking about the capital and the lowercase form of that letter, and that just makes it stand out to them too. Another thing, and I don't know how well you can see in this photo, but I added alphabet cards. So I have like a capital A, a lowercase a, and then you can also do even a picture card. Addison likes apples, picture of an apple. Picture of balloons for Brayden likes balloons. I also stuck their little photos in there too. I usually, within the first couple of days of school, I'll take their photos, print them out. We use them for all kinds of things. They love seeing their picture. They can even, I'm getting ahead of myself, but they can match their friends' photos to their friends' names, and that's fun. But so this is what I did with this particular chart. You can use the chart as is, or you can turn it into this sentence strip thing, really, whatever works for you. But when you are ready to start centers, a really nice thing is if you've done a couple of these charts, there are activities that you can have the kids do with the charts that you've already done. So you already have some ready-made centers whenever you're ready to start centers. They're matching their names to their pictures. They're putting the sentences in order, or they're like matching the alphabet letters to the the strip, whatever you want to have them do. This can be something that you do whole group, but then it can also become a center activity. Okay, so that name alphabet example that I was showing you, that's just one idea, and there's so many more things that I've done. You could just ask the kids what they did over the weekend. Addison went to the zoo, Braden played soccer. It doesn't have to be exactly like that. You could even do their favorite foods. Addison likes to eat pizza, Braden likes to eat fruit. You could do favorite TV shows, movies, colors, animals. You can also do things that the kids can do. That's great for working on the high frequency word can. Addison can do a flip. Braden can write his name. If you have classroom jobs, if that's something you're starting, you can write about those. Addison is the line leader. Braden turns off the lights. And so really the possibilities are endless, right? You could have them look out the window. What do you see? We see a tree, we see a flower, we see a playground. It doesn't necessarily have to use the kids' names. It can still be a predictable chart with the same sentence frame, even if it's not using their names. So it doesn't have to be restricted to using their names. I just like to do at least 1 or 2 charts at the beginning of the year that do use their names, just because it's so meaningful to them. You could also write like a story. It doesn't even have to be a predictable chart. You probably already do things like maybe you went on a field trip and the kids retell the story of what you did first and next and last, and you write it. Maybe you just had a fire drill and they tell you what happened and you write it for them, or did a science experiment. Just anything that's interesting to them. They'll want to talk about it more, and then you can write what happened. So again, there's so many possibilities with this. It doesn't have to use their names. It's just the act of taking what they're saying, writing it down, and then the kids are reading it, and you can do other little extension activities with it. So speaking of other extension activities, just wanted to share some ideas with you. Once you've got that chart, like I said, once you create it, that's one sitting, that's one little lesson, or even 2 if you're doing all the kids' names, because it just takes forever. But that's one little activity, but there's so many things that you can do afterward. You could do what I showed you with the pictures and the letters, or you could have them, hunt for specific words or letters. We're working on the letter M. Can you find the letter M in our chart? Like I showed you, you can take that chart on chart paper or big paper and rewrite it on sentence strips, cut apart the words. Then the kids can put the sentences back in order if you mix them up, as long as you don't have too many. Maybe you take out some of the words, you leave the chart mostly as is, but you just take out the word is, or the word can, and then you have a little baggie, and as an independent activity or as with the whole class, the kids are helping you put back the words that are missing. So that's something you can do if you cut it up into sentence strips. You can turn each sentence into a page of a class book. I love doing this, especially if we've done a chart where they have, a sentence about their name. They love that sentence, and you can rewrite it. You can just type it up so fast, put it at the bottom of a piece of paper, and then print everything out. Each child gets their page, they illustrate it, you put it in the classroom library, and it's the new hottest commodity. They all want to read that book, and they're reading it. They know what those sentences are. It's pretend reading, but it's just so meaningful to them. Another thing you can do when it's still, like a big chart, or even if you have it on sentence strips, is to just have them reread it with a partner. Once you start centers, how easy is it to give them a pointer, to give them a partner, and they're rereading what you already wrote? Of course, some of it's pretend reading, and that's okay. They're still, they're working on one-to-one pointing, directionality, maybe recognizing some of those high frequency words, but that's another thing you can do. And how easy is that, right? Like I showed you with that chart, you can have them match pictures to sentences. So you've got your chart up, and the picture of the apple, the picture of the balloon, they're matching. Another thing you can do is if you want to just have them do some it's really kind of just handwriting or fine motor practice, to have them copy the sentences. If you don't, I wouldn't do a whole alphabet of names in the class. That's a lot to copy. But if you do a shorter chart, just have them copy it. And then, oh my goodness, they take it home. They can reread it. This is also good for some of your advanced kiddos who can maybe copy a little bit more quickly. They copy it and they actually can read it to their, families at home. but that's super fun as well for your kids who are able to do that. So many things you can do with these charts. So of course, like I'm sure your mind is like, oh my gosh, I could do this and I could do that and I can do this. And you probably already do a lot of awesome things. So many things you could focus on: letters, spaces between words, periods, high frequency words, and the charts really are great for that. When you're in the process of making the chart for the first time, especially at the beginning of the school year, I think it's so important for us to keep the focus on meaning, really letting the kids see how you turn their spoken sentences into writing. Show them how they can read those sentences. And you can do all kinds of phonics and other stuff once the chart is made. But during that initial lesson, I try to keep it relatively fast-paced, fun, and just meaningful, them learning how reading and writing work. Okay, so I'm gonna do one more section, then I'll stop for questions. I apologize if I have missed yours so far, but I wanna talk a little bit about shared reading. So when you have kids read those charts, that actually is a form of shared reading, which is awesome when you're all reading together. But I wanna talk a little bit more about just shared reading itself in depth, how I do it with Big Books, and why I believe it's so important to do at the beginning of the year, all year round. But it's really made a big impact on my kids' ability to start reading and just to understand how print works. Alrighty, so shared reading is usually, doesn't have to be, but usually it's a whole group instructional routine where the teacher and students are sharing, hence the name, the work of decoding and comprehending a text. So the kids are reading along. Now at the beginning of kindergarten, they're probably not really reading, but they can maybe join in on some parts. They can, reread something that they've seen before. The first time you're definitely reading the book to them, but eventually the goal is that you're sharing the work. During shared reading, you want the words of the text that you're using to be clearly visible to students. And there's a lot of ways to accomplish this. I like to use as many Big Books as I can at the beginning of the school year, but that's not the only thing that you can use. So if you don't have Big Books, do not worry. There are other options, and I'll talk about that kind of like at the end of the section, but don't worry if you don't have Big Books. There's other ways to accomplish it. Shared reading is extremely powerful in teaching print skills, which is just basically how books work, and in teaching our kids to begin reading on their own. It's really like showing them, like, this is how you read. I am pointing. I am, you're modeling how to decode stuff. It's like showing them the process. All right, so to make this a little more concrete, I'll tell you kind of what my shared reading looks like. I would say it looks pretty similar throughout the school year, but I thought of an example that I would use toward the beginning of the year. I love using the Three Billy Goats Scruff because it's kind of repetitive and just so much fun. The kids can retell it. And so if you've got a big book, great. Again, I'll talk a little bit later about what to do if you don't have big books, but you want the kids to be able to see the text. And so on Monday, I'm reading the book to them. They haven't read it yet. I just want them to listen. We're focusing on general comprehension. The first time we read, I'm not really, going in depth on the letters. We're reading for meaning, right? That's the purpose of reading, and I want them to get that. So for that first day, I'm just basically reading to them. We're talking about what the text means. Maybe we're making predictions because that's something that we're working on. What do you think is going to happen next? What do you think is going to happen next? Turn to your partner, tell them what's going to happen next. So just basically comprehension. Now on Tuesday, I bring back out that same text. It's still the Three Billy Goats Scruff. And this time, they may be able to read along a little bit with me because they've learned some of the words. And there's that repetitive, there's that repetitive refrain of like, who's that tripping over my bridge, or however it goes. So this time, maybe some of the kids are reading along with you. And this time you have a little bit of a different focus. This time you're teaching the kids how to carefully examine the pictures. Because raise your hand if a lot of your kids come into kindergarten and looking at a book means like, they're just like flipping through the pages, not paying any attention at all. Kids have to be taught to pay more attention to the illustration. So you're pointing out, oh, do you see those little flowers there? Do you notice how the goat looks angry? Oh, like look at what the troll is doing. So teaching them to carefully examine the pictures is a skill that's going to pay off in their reading, but also even just their pretend reading if they're not reading yet. Another thing that you can hit on real quickly in this, particular book is, what's the problem in the story? You can ask that at the end. Oh, there was a problem in the story, wasn't there? That was something that went wrong. What was the problem? And see if they can get that. So again, it's kind of like a comprehension focus. So then Wednesday, I'm bringing it out again. But on Wednesday, I may not necessarily get through the whole text. But on Wednesday, maybe I've brought along like a sticky note or a special pointer, and we are really focusing on having the kids notice the first letter and to use that information in decoding. So if it's the word goat, where is the first letter? Not all kids know where the first letter of the word is. And they can see it because it's a big book. So we're pointing, okay, help me find the first letter. There it is. What sound does it make? G, depending on where you are in your school year. And then, I see a picture of a goat. Goat, that, that makes sense. That starts with a G. Goat starts with G. So just a very simple decoding strategy. You could even cover up part of the word with a sticky note and then model, oh yeah, you told me you thought that was goat, and I read the rest of the letters and I checked it and that does say goat. So it's a decoding strategy. And when I teach a decoding strategy, I kind of slow down the reading. I'm not necessarily trying to get through the whole book every single day. On Wednesday, in this example, we're really focusing on that decoding strategy. So if we only get through half the book, that's fine. And then Thursday, we can finish rereading the book. And this time we're reading with expression that matches the character's feelings. So is the troll angry? Are the goats afraid? I'm having the kids read along with me and show the emotions that the characters are having by changing their voices. And that's a fluency skill. So we've done some comprehension skills, Monday, Tuesday, decoding skill, fluency skill, all with the same book. And Monday, Tuesday, I wouldn't say Monday, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as I mentioned, I'm kind of wanting the kids to get in the habit of reading with me. So it might be that they're reading with me, choral reading. It might be that they're echo reading. Like on Thursday, I'm like, oh, listen to me show with my voice how angry the troll is. And then I'll read a little part. And then they'll read that same part. They'll echo it back to me. That's another option too. And then on Friday, by this point, they've seen the book a number of times. They know how to read some of the parts. And I like to do something a little more active. So I will often give the kids little puppets. Some of them are like the troll, some of them are the goats, or I even have them stand up and trip trap over the bridge. And just some way, we may not necessarily reread the whole book again, but we're acting out the story, looking at the pictures, just some way to have them demonstrate that they understand the story, and also work on fluency too, because if they're saying things in different voices or rereading things, that's another way to work on fluency. So that's kind of what an example week can look like. Many great ways to do shared reading, but that's more or less how I do it. Okay, so now that you just kind of have a sense of what you can do with shared reading in a week, let's talk a little bit more about important skills that we can teach during shared reading. Because as I was showing you, you can have, a focus skill for decoding, fluency, many different options. And those are all great things, and you probably already do that. This day we're going to focus on saying the sounds and blending the word together, or this day we have a comprehension skill focus. But there's some other skills that are especially relevant for the beginning of kindergarten, and these are print skills or print concepts, whatever you want to call them. And these skills often aren't listed on your state standards. At least I have not seen them listed frequently, unless maybe they're listed in preschool or for the preschool standards, early learning standards. But these skills are super important, especially for kids who didn't have a lot of reading experiences prior to kindergarten. So during shared reading, we can discuss and teach our kids how to identify the front and back covers and the title page to know that terminology. Just how to hold the book properly and turn the pages correctly, where to begin reading on the page. There's text all over. Where do we start? Reading left to right, top to bottom, that return sweep, right? When you're going all the way down and then starting again. They're learning the differences between a letter, word, and sentence. Is this a sentence? Is this a word? Is that a letter? They're learning to identify the first and last letter in a word, just that this starts with W and the last letter is D. Not the letter names necessarily, although that's helpful too, but the position of the letter in the word. Also, the first and last word in a sentence. This is the first word, this is the last word. the number of words in a sentence. This sentence has 5 words. And of course, pointing 1 to 1 under each word. So many print concepts. And some of our kids come in, to school already knowing these things. But I typically work on at least 1 or 2 of these things during every shared reading lesson. And it doesn't have to be like I'm talking about it extensively, but I'll just point things out. Or I'll have a child come up and show me, oh, hey, Janet is going to show us where we start reading. So Janet takes the pointer and she shows us where to start. Or something else that's ridiculous that they just laugh at. But I will put the big book up backwards and upside down, and I'll be like, okay, kindergartners, I'm ready to read. And then they'll think it's so funny. I'll have a child come up and correct me, and that lends itself to talking about, this is the front cover. We always start at the front cover. That was the back cover. Just something simple along those lines. And I also like to involve kids, student leaders, as much as possible. For my students that are really struggling with print concepts, I like to have them be the leader, because even if I have my hand kind of on the pointer guiding them, it's a great opportunity for practice, and they love having that little leadership role. I also think it's helpful just to know that shared reading was originally designed as a larger scale version of lap reading. So lap reading being you're sitting with your child in your lap and you're reading with them. Not all of our kids spend tons of time listening to stories in their parents' laps, so they didn't necessarily pick up on all of these print skills during their preschool years. But when we use that enlarged text, like a big book or something else, we're giving our kids access to the print, and we can easily point things out to them because it's so big, it's displayed for them. But that's a little bit just like parents. Our kids' parents might intentionally or unintentionally teach these print concepts to their own children. So I just think it's interesting and helpful to think of it that way, that this is your opportunity to teach things that they may not have learned that other kids did when they were sitting in their parents' laps reading, or their family's laps. So now that we've talked about what shared reading might look like and why it's beneficial, we're going to talk too about how to create really fun, engaging shared reading experiences for your kinders. And I think the first and most important step is just to choose meaningful, repetitive text that the kids will enjoy reading more than one time. Some of your kids might complain at first, like, why are we reading this again? But if you choose good text, there's a little less complaining. And if it does happen that your kids are whining about it, I just basically, I address it, but then I ignore it. I just keep the focus on, oh my gosh, you already know how to read this part and you can do this. You can read along with me. Good job. And they really do stop complaining. Another thing that I do is, and I said this a little bit earlier, I try to involve student leaders as much as possible. So I might have a few kids come up and take turns pointing under the words with a special pointer. I got something at Target, or it was maybe Office Max, Office Depot a long time ago. And we use that. It's literally just wooden and it has a little apple, or I have a shorter one that has a star on it. But I will usually only do that where they're pointing for the rest of the kids after we've read the book at least once or twice. Another thing you can do is have the kids come up to the front, and just a few kids at a time, 1 or 2, and say, okay, can you show me this word? Can you show me that word? Can you show me this alphabet letter? And then sometimes they really love this. I don't do this the first week of school or anything, but once they know a book really well and they can kind of pretend read it, what I'll do on Fridays, I'll say, oh my gosh, you guys know how to read this book so well. I don't think you need me up here. So I'm going to sit down just like a kindergartner, and I'm going to have some of you be the leader, and you're going to read it to me. So I'm going to listen to you read. So I'll literally sit down on the rug, and I'll have, 1 or 2 student leaders. They take turns. One does half the book, the other does the other half, and they are pointing and the whole class is reading. And they just love being in charge like that. So again, that's not something that I do the first or second week of school, because there's some things that we have to have in place first. But once you get to that point, that's really fun and an easy thing to do for them. Also kind of mentioned this with the 3 Billy Goat Scruff example. Once we've read a story a few times, a really fun thing to do with it is act it out. They can do movements that go along with the story, or they can, use little puppets. I actually, in your freebie, which again is coming at the end, I have some common stories. I think I did 3 Little Pigs and a few other things for you that you can glue onto craft sticks. I don't do anything fancy for it. If you have awesome puppets that go with stuff, I love that. but sometimes it's expensive. So if you want to use what I'm giving you, you'll have that and you just like glue it or tape it onto craft sticks, like the thick craft sticks. And those make great puppets as well. So now we're going to talk about extension activities that you can do like beyond just what you're doing with your, weekly shared reading. But before we talk about that, I want to address materials that you can use for shared reading. So like I said at the beginning of the year, it's my goal to find repetitive texts that are just fun for the kids to read more than once and things that have great illustrations. Love big books, but I know that not everybody has a ton of big books in their classroom. So some other materials that you can use are charts, like we talked about in strategy 1, where you're writing something with the class, like that can become their shared reading piece as well. You can take a regular book, just a regular size picture book, and put it under the document camera. As long as they can see it, that does the trick, right? Or maybe you have like an ebook, you have an interactive whiteboard, you have an ebook, you pull it up there. A digital book works as well. Another thing you can do, and I actually have these in the freebie for you, are to like type up song lyrics, just little songs that you sing with them, and display them on the interactive board or use them under the document camera, even write them on chart paper. So I've got some for you in the freebie if you would like to use those. But basically, if you want to do song lyrics, it's so easy. You just sing the song with your kids a couple of times. Maybe there's already songs that you sing. You can use those. And then you say, hey, you know how we sing the Itsy Bitsy Spider? Guess what? I have the words right here for you. So you display it so they can see it clearly. And then you read it, not necessarily singing it, but you're reading it, and the kids can kind of read along because they know the song. And that can be your shared reading, but what the kids really love is for you to make copies of it. And then that's something that can go in their independent reading book bag or box, and they can like read it or really read it if they can. And it's so cute to just hear them like singing the songs and like they're pointing one-to-one to the words, just getting them in the practice of that. Maybe they're noticing high frequency words. So it can be something that you do whole group, but then also it can become independent reading or pretend reading as well. Another thing you can do along those lines are poems. Just look some up online, or maybe you have a book of favorites. You can write them on chart paper, and that's a really easy shared reading material as well. I do want to mention real quick, and this is not something that I really worry about at the beginning of the school year, but I would say that maybe like 6-7 weeks in, the texts that I choose for shared reading change a little bit. At the beginning of the year, I just want them to be fun, repetitive. I'm not really necessarily worried about the kids being able to read them. But, like 6-7 weeks in, they're starting to read, some of them, starting to read or, pretend read a little bit more. And so I might start using like level A or level B books, because those are the type of books that maybe the kids are reading in small group. And so I really want to show them how to read those books. So that's kind of like another topic for another day, but I just wanted to mention that because at the beginning of the year, if they can't read the books that you're using for shared reading, that's fine. But as the year goes on, you want them to be able to actually read and do decode those words along with you. So it kind of shifts as the year goes on. So just a little tidbit about that. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about with shared reading are just some activities that I like to do as a whole class. I make them available as centers or independent work activities as well, because the kids love to practice them with a partner after they've seen us, do it together. We can act out the story. I've already mentioned this a couple of times. If you have like a felt board, I used to have them when I taught preschool with little felt pieces. You can have them like retell it with felt pieces, or even just like if you've got little puppets or magnets, or you print out some of the stuff that I am giving you in the freebie, they can retell on their own. They can go on letter or word hunts where they're collecting words on index cards or sentence strips for the pocket chart from the shared reading book that you're doing. This is just kind of like what I was talking about with the chart as well, where you can actually put some of the sentences on sentence strips if you have a poem or a shorter text. And then the kids you can cut them apart. Kids can put them back in order, or they can put like the whole sentence, all the little phrases or sentences in order to make the song or the poem. And then as a class, you could even create a shared writing piece in response to the text, a little reader response. As a class, you've read this book. Now you all create this little piece on chart paper about the book. So just like those charts that we talked about in strategy 1, your shared reading experiences can lend themselves to other activities and simple centers for your students. All right, so I know we've gone over a lot. Let me see if I can grab a question or two. Deanna's asking about the letter or word hunt. Hopefully I said your name correctly, but that is just basically where, if you have a shared reading book or like a poem or a chart, you give them a target letter and you can like give it on a card. And they can, I think I actually maybe saw out of the corner of my eye somebody asking about this earlier, or mentioning it earlier. But sometimes I have like a fly swatter, and if you cut out part of the fly swatter, they can like, oh, here's a letter M, here's another letter M. They're just basically looking through the book and looking for a specific letter or a specific word. All right, I will for sure answer more questions later, but I want to try to keep us, I know we're running short on time already. I want to try to keep us on track as much as possible. So we are going to dive into phonics, and I will answer more questions at the end for sure. All right, so we've been talking about a lot of stuff that really, like helps kids view themselves as readers and writers, teaches those important basic print skills. But when it comes to actually getting them to read and write, teaching phonics, letter sounds specifically, is, of course, what's going to get them actually reading and writing. So I recommend introducing each letter faster than one letter per week. I also recommend focusing on the letter sound so that when you do that, so not just letter name, but the letter sound as well. And when you introduce kids to more than just one letter a week, you're giving kids access to the letters more quickly. And there is some research to support this. That's included in your freebie that just kind of explains, if you have the books or whatever, you look at the articles, it explains why we don't want to limit ourselves to just one letter per week. And the main reason is that kids need multiple exposures at different points in the year. So if we're focusing on the letter M all week, there's going to be some kids that just aren't going to get it. And then if we don't necessarily revisit it too much because we're having to do all the other letters, then they don't have another chance to pick up on it. So it just has to do with the way kids learn. So that's why I recommend doing more than one letter per week. I feel like 2 is nice. I do have, and then kind of 3 toward the end of the year, I do have a possible scope and sequence that you might be able to use if you don't have one. And that is included in your freebie, which again is coming at the end here. So you may have to slow that scope and sequence down too, but I put a note about that. Just wanted to give you something to go on in case you don't have anything, but you'll see in that scope and sequence that it's not a letter of the week thing. After you introduce all of the letters, so, the first weeks, months of school, then you can go back. You can differentiate your instruction in small groups. You can spend more time on exactly what kids need, because you can assess and say these kids need to work on these letters. These kids need to work on those letters. And I also highly recommend, when you're introducing letters and even afterward, I highly recommend some kind of multisensory or kinesthetic letter chant. Heard good things about Jolly Phonics. There's a couple of other ones out there. It's nice to have the kids saying, I forget what it is for Jolly Phonics, but a apple, and then they're biting an apple or something. You can make yours up if you don't have one, but it's like a movement, it's a chant. They're practicing the alphabet. So if you do that chant every day with them, and I don't start the whole alphabet at the beginning of the year, but if you do it every day with them, then, your kids are going to pick up on letters and sounds even faster than you're introducing them. So that's a big thing that I do every day with my kids. Okay, so when I'm introducing a letter, I will introduce the letter name, how to form the letter, how to, write the letter, and also the letter sound. Focus a lot on the sound, because the sound is what gets kids reading and writing, right? Letter names are useful, but when we read a word, we're using the sounds. We're not using the names. When I'm doing that, and again, this is whole group, because differentiated alphabet instruction is awesome, but at the beginning of the year, the kids aren't independent enough to be able to work on their own. So we're doing this whole group. As a group, we'll come up with words that start with the letter. We can make a list on chart paper or on the board, and also discuss the kids' names. So Addison begins with A. It's always nice to tie in their names. We will do some sort of sensory tracing of the letter. This could be in sand. Maybe you have paper plates and you keep colored sand and you just kind of stack up 5 here, 5 there. The kids each get a paper plate. And on the paper plate, they're tracing with their finger and they're saying, A says A. So as they're tracing, they're saying that. That's a multisensory activity because they're verbalizing it while they're tracing. Very simple way to introduce the letters or practice them. I also always, when I introduce a letter, I'll do some sort of picture sort. And this is more for phonological awareness than anything, but I'll give them pictures that some of the pictures will begin with that letter and some of the pictures that will not begin with that letter. So kind of a mix. So with this example, and I believe I stuck this in your freebie, there was a picture of a banana, bag, balloon, fish, leaf. Usually I'll give them a couple more than that. But they then have to pick up the picture, or they'll cut it out, pick up the picture. Banana starts with B, so they put it in that column. You can have them glue them down if you want. But that's something that I almost always do when I introduce a letter. And another thing that I do is we will look for the letter in print, in books. We'll look for it around the room, just whenever we're even walking in the hall, maybe just trying to get them to see the letter in the wild, as I call it. So not just understanding oh, this thing is a B, but it's a B and we see it in books and we see it here and we see it there. Okay, so having kids use their letter sound knowledge to spell words is extremely helpful in developing their letter sound knowledge. And you can do this, you can have them practice this through invented or temporary spelling. So maybe during writing workshop time, they're drawing a picture and they're trying to label things. They're trying to label the tree, they're trying to label grass, dog. So that's a great way to do it. I don't wait to teach writing until my kids know their letter sounds. I want them to know a couple of letter sounds, but I'm teaching them how to, stretch out a word, listen for the sounds, and also use an alphabet chart to write what they hear. I've given this in other freebies, but this alphabet chart is in your freebie as well. I highly recommend using some type of alphabet chart to model, oh, I want to write the word bug because in my picture, I drew a picture of bug. So bug. What do I hear first? I hear b. What picture starts like b? Okay, that's a book. I'm going to write the letter B. So you're just modeling, stretching out a word and finding the sounds that match and writing the letters, and you're modeling over and over and over and over and over again because you want them to get that process of stretching out the word, listening for the sounds and writing the sounds. And so kids don't need to know all their sounds before they can write. They don't even need to know half of them. They can use an alphabet chart. You're working on phonological awareness. This process of having them invent spellings for words, not totally invented, but listen for the sounds and write them, this helps teach them the letter sounds. Another great thing to do is do a dictation. And this is different than invented spelling where maybe, you've done the letters, I don't know, S-U-N or whatever, and they know those letters and you're dictating the word sun and then you're showing them, okay, you need the S, N, and then they're writing S, N. You're dictating words for them with sounds that they know, with letters that they know, and then they're writing them. So that's different from your invented spelling, right? But both are valuable. And then I have a little note down here, model, model, model. You're always stretching out words for the kids to write. I feel like it's okay to model incorrect words. You can always mention I got this from a book that's in your freebie. It's on the last page, but it's temporary spelling, right? If one of your kids knows how to spell it, awesome, that's great. You can acknowledge that it's not the correct spelling while still modeling how to stretch it out. You can always go back and fix it later if it's something that you're going to display in the classroom. Okay, so these are just a couple of fun ways to sneak in extra alphabet practice in addition to what you're already doing. I like to have a student of the day routine at the beginning of the year. I don't start at the first day, but maybe the second week, I'll have a cup with their names on popsicle sticks or craft sticks, and I'll pull a name, and that's the student of the day, and we'll write their name on some kind of chart. I've done charts many ways. But you can write their first name, their last name, talk to the kids about the letters in their names, talk to the kids, oh, Isabel has an S in her name. Well, guess what? Christopher's last name, Smith, starts with S, getting them to make connections. That helps them with letters. You can also ask questions of the child, what is your favorite food? And then the kids learn to ask questions because after you model it a couple of times, they are asking the student of the day questions. What is your favorite color? You get some weird questions. What is your favorite shirt? I've gotten that once or twice, just random stuff, but they learn to ask questions in addition to getting in all that good name practice where the student of the day gets their name written up here and you can discuss. I also think it's really helpful to have some alphabet songs or videos on hand for cleaning up and coming to the rug. So when it's time to clean up, that you put on a song, they're cleaning up, and maybe they're like singing along with your, alphabet song that they know. Or as long as they don't get distracted, they might be watching something on YouTube. I have some links to YouTube that are in your freebie that you can use for this, but it's just like using that little bit of downtime to get the letter names in their head. There's Dr. Jean, there's Jack Hartman, there's all kinds of people out there that have lovely songs. Another little simple thing that I'll do once they kind of know the letters in their name, if your name has the letter A in it, go line up. If your name has the letter T in it, go line up. Just, another way of reinforcing. I'm going to talk about this really quickly. I know it's kind of a tricky issue, but when your students are at different levels, like some of them come in and they know the alphabet really well, and some of them come in and they're reading, and some of them come in and they don't know any of the letters in their name. Like that's difficult, right? I've been in that position before. Just a couple of quick tips. One thing you can do, and actually, so if you end up joining the Kindergarten Literacy Club or winning a membership, I have a full length, I think we went an hour webinar for you to watch that's all about this. So just a side note about that. We're going to go over this quickly, but if you're a Kindergarten Literacy Club member, you actually have the August webinar that's about this topic. But anyway, when your students are at different levels, you can still teach them whole group effectively. Use multi-level questioning, where some of your questions are aimed at kids that need to work on naming letters. But some of your questions are, what does this word say? Karen, what does this word say? Billy? You can target kids and ask them questions that are at their level with the same chart or with the same shared reading text. You can do that whole group and still meet different kids' levels. Another thing at the beginning of the year, you're probably not able to pull a ton of small groups yet because the kids aren't independent enough, but maybe you have an activity that most of the kids are doing, and then you pull 3 or 4 kids at the side and you have a different activity for them, and you kind of get them started on it, but then you're still free to get up and walk around. You can do a really informal small group activity like that. When you have kids that are already reading, keep a basket of easy readers and alternative activities available for them. I don't necessarily love to force them to always do something different than the rest of the class, but if they're interested, and that's nice too, if parents are like, what are you doing for my child? He's already reading. You can show them there's a special basket, just having things available for them when they need an alternative. And also too, I know it can be stressful when you're oh my gosh, my kids are just all over the place and I don't know how to help all of them. Remember that at this age, kids are sponges, right? They're learning all the time. They may be picking up on things that you're not even focusing on. A range of kids can all benefit from the same lesson. All right, so our last strategy before we do our giveaway here is phonological awareness. And phonics, phonological awareness go together, right? Phonological awareness is the ability to hear and manipulate sounds in words. So these are activities that do not involve letters or letter names, and you can do phonological awareness practice with your eyes closed. You don't have to do it with your eyes closed, but the point is just that phonological awareness does not involve letters in print. These are activities that can be quick, just a few minutes a day, and you can kind of sprinkle them in throughout your day, especially during transitions. That's a great time for them. This will be in your slide. I should have mentioned I did send out the slides earlier, but if you didn't get them, I will be sending that out in my email to you, which goes out automatically, I want to say an hour after we're done. So no need to write all this down. But this is a continuum that goes from easier to more difficult in terms of phonological awareness skills. And I'll go a little more in depth on each one, but we go from rhyming to sentence segmenting, syllable blending and segmenting, onset and rhyme blending and segmenting, phoneme blending and segmenting, phoneme manipulation. We're not going to talk about phoneme manipulation tonight because that's not something that I practice with my kids at the beginning of the school year. But this is kind of a continuum that you can refer back to because that will be in your slides. Just a couple of things to think about when you're working on phonological awareness at the beginning of the school year, your kids don't need to completely master one skill before moving on. So like this is a continuum, but if a child can't rhyme, you don't have to keep them back from doing the other things. This is generally the sequence that skills unfold in, but they don't have to completely master one thing before moving on. I also feel like it's okay to mix skills within a week as long as you're not, so like it can be confusing if you're asking kids 1 second to like, okay, break up this word bug, bug. Now break it up like bug. Like if you're mixing those constantly, like that's a little confusing, but you can still mix and match these activities and these skills within 1 week, as long as you're doing only one skill in one sitting, if that makes sense. I also think it's really valuable to work on blending and segmenting, like, CVC words, but without the letters, just orally and listening before the kids are actually using those skills to read and write. The earlier on in the year you're teaching that stuff, the more opportunities kids have to pick up on how to do it. And that will really help them when they get to the point when they're reading CVC words. So we're going to talk real quick about each one of these things. I believe I have some different activities that go with the skills in your freebie, which is coming in a couple minutes here. But with rhyming, there's different components of rhyming. There's identifying whether or not two words rhyme. There's also identifying rhyming pairs. So which of these two words rhyme? Big, web, pig. They have to pull out big and pig. Then there's generating rhymes. That's like one of the hardest things. What are some words that rhyme with house? So there's different like subsets of skills within rhyming. And again, you're going to have these slides to refer back to later. You can do all of this orally. You can also do rhyming picture sorts. I believe I stuck a rhyming picture sort in your freebie as an example. These pictures rhyme with cat. These pictures rhyme with dog. They're cutting and sorting, or you like laminate it and you can reuse it. So sentence segmenting is just being able to identify the separate words in a sentence. When we're talking, we do not speak like this. So it's very hard for kids to hear like this is a word and this is a word and this is a word. So sentence segmenting is a skill that they need to learn, hearing the individual words in a sentence. So for example, you say, let's play a word game. I'm going to tell you a sentence, and this would be like small group, and then you'll repeat the sentence and push a counter for every word you hear. So if I say I love books, you would say I love books, and you're pushing one counter for each word. That gets tricky when it's multisyllabic words, but that's something that you can practice. We count the words in sentences, which is also sentence segmenting, all the time. When we're writing a sentence together as a class, we repeat the sentence like 3 times and we count the words on our fingers. That's like just embedded in a lot of the writing instruction I do. Moving up our little continuum here, and I know I'm going fast, but you will have this to refer back to later. But the next skill that I had on there was syllable blending and segmenting. So blending would be putting the syllables together. Segmenting would be taking the syllables apart. So like if you say the word water, they have to say water, or the syllables water. Then segmenting would be if you say popcorn, they have to say popcorn. In your freebie, I have a syllable sort for you where there's different pictures. Bell has 1 syllable, crayons has 2, umbrella has 3, and they sort the pictures by the number of syllables. And they can actually, on those little cards, they can touch crayons 1 time for each syllable, which is a little bit confusing if you use dots under words, but you got to kind of separate that out. Next up on the little continuum is onset and rhyme blending and segmenting. So blending would be like, I'm going to say the first sound of the word and then the rest of the word, you tell me what the whole word is, and then you would say to the kids, sheep, and they have to say sheep. And then segmenting is the opposite. If you say bat, they say b-at. So a little bit different than like phoneme segmenting and blending, but that's another skill to work on too. Speaking of phoneme segmenting and blending, let's see. Yeah. So this is the last one on the continuum that I'm going to talk about. And then of course there's the like phoneme manipulation, but we don't work on that at the beginning of the year. So I'm going to leave that off. But there's different subsets, right? So phonemes are the individual sounds in words. Phonological awareness encompasses things like rhyming, onset and rhyme. Phonemic awareness is part of phonological awareness. There's phoneme blending. So if I say what word does that make? That makes gum. phoneme matching, so being able to isolate the initial phoneme, the first sound. Which word starts like sock? Sun, banana, pig. And they have to say sun. Sun starts like sock. There's also phoneme isolation, so tell me the last sound in the word hip. P. Or P, sorry. And then there's phoneme segmenting. Tell me all the sounds in the word fun. So they have to go f, n, right? And that phoneme blending, I'm losing my mind here. Phoneme blending and phoneme segmenting, even though they're a little bit trickier, I feel like it's super important to start working on those as early in the year as you can, because that will give the kids such an advantage at the point when they come to the point where they're ready to read CVC words. All right, so we have gone over a lot. I'm going to save questions to the end because I know I've gone 2 minutes over. I apologize. Just always have so much that I want to talk about. We went over our 4 key strategies, and you're getting those slides emailed to you, so you'll have all the stuff that we talked about already. Again, these are not the only things that I do during my literacy block, but these are what I feel is the most helpful in getting my kids reading and writing. So now it is time for our giveaway. I'm going to share some information with you about my kindergarten literacy club. That's kind of what I've been talking about throughout tonight, mentioning it here and there. And the giveaway prize is a 6-month membership, and I'm going to be pulling multiple winners. So let's do this. All right, so we've gone over a lot, as I said. I know it was a lot of information, and I know that it's also easy to walk away from a workshop like this one feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you implement like 1 or 2 things, but then you end up losing momentum because you feel like you just don't have enough time. And that's not your fault. You know, you already have so much on your plate, especially at the beginning of the year. Your to-do list probably looks like this, right? And if you've been a teacher before, then you know that you've stayed late after school. You are planning and prepping on weekends. And even if you start off the school year feeling super prepared and on top of things, I don't know about you, but a couple of months, even a couple of weeks in, this situation becomes your reality, right? And that can end up causing a whole lot of other problems for you that don't necessarily have to do with school. Maybe you have kids. Maybe you feel guilty because you want to spend your weekends with them, but then you have stuff to do for school and you feel torn. Like, do I spend my time with my kids, but I have this huge to-do list? Or maybe you just want to work out more. You want to go to the gym, but when are you going to have time to do that if you're constantly staying late at school? Maybe you're having sleep issues like I have. Maybe you have anxiety and, you know, back to school really contributes to that. Or maybe you just don't feel like you have enough time for yourself. And I talk with so many of you via email and Facebook and Instagram, and I really take what you tell me to heart because I can 100% relate. Like I said earlier at the beginning, I put on these workshops, these webinars, because I personally have struggled in the past. I've had anxiety, had sleeping problems because of work, but I have found solutions and I really want to help make things easier for you. I also believe really strongly that you should not have to sacrifice your entire life for your job. I don't think that's a fair expectation. You don't have to choose between being a great teacher and having a life, and you deserve time for yourself, your family, your friends. And honestly, like, part of being a good teacher is feeling rested and like you have a full life outside of school, because when you have, you know, when you're constantly staying late, I don't know about you, but when I come back to school in the morning, it's like, I was just here, and you don't have the same energy for your kids that you would if you had a little more time for yourself. And kindergartners require a lot of energy on our part, right? So like I told you earlier, I work part-time in my reading specialist job so that I can support you all. And I really would love to be able to work with you and support you more closely in implementing the things that we talked about today, and just like all things literacy. So with that in mind, at the beginning of this year, at the beginning of 2019, I launched a membership site called the Kindergarten Literacy Club. And the purpose of the Kindergarten Literacy Club is to give you the resources you need to be a great teacher and to give you the support so that you can have hopefully a more balanced and happy life overall. So if you're a Kindergarten Literacy Club member, whether you're already a member, I know we have some members on here, you win one, you end up joining, you get, as a KLC member, brand new resources every single month. So at the beginning of each month, we do like a little group video chat. It's a lot smaller than this. I love our KLC chats because it's an opportunity to connect more personally. You know, the chat does not scroll like this. It's you know, it's closed. It's just for KLC members. It's more personal, which is lovely. And in that little chat, we do some professional development. I'll go over the monthly materials and we'll do Q&A. So it doesn't just have to be literacy. You're welcome to bring any kindergarten question that you're wondering about, that you're worried about. We can talk about that in our group chat. In addition, every single month you get 2 tools or resources to support you with implementing whatever our monthly focus topic was. For this month, our focus topic is in August. It is differentiating your alphabet instruction when you have your kids that are like all over the place in terms of what they can do when they come in the school year. And then also every single month you get 3 guided reading books or 3 little leveled books with lesson plans for each. Obviously those are very like early beginning readers that you're getting now for this month. And then you also get 4 activities that you can have the kids do as centers, daily 5, independent work, or as whole group activities, because at the beginning of the year, they're just not doing a lot of independent stuff on their own. So to give you an example of what that looks like concretely, these are the August 2019 examples. And my KLC members, they already have these materials. If you join or win a membership, you automatically get access to the August materials. And then, you know, September, you get new ones, October, etc. And it all saves in your login. It's all in one place. So like I did, you know, these break apart little alphabet cards. I also did CVC word cards for the more advanced students. They can do those. I did some rhyming clip cards. You have some very beginning readers that you may end up saving until like, you know, September, October, but you'll have those. You could even use some of those for shared reading if you wanted to. I also am big on incorporating play into literacy instruction as much as possible. And so this month I had like a farm stand, dramatic play props. So it's like, obviously not the tomatoes, those are mine, but you have like little printable things that you can use to have the kids make stuff for like, you know, they're going to make their own little farm stand. They're using literacy skills, but they're also playing. And then I also have this little alphabet name book that the kiddos can make 1 page for each letter in their name. So that's something that my students have loved doing. So those are some of the August materials. Not everything here is pictured. There's more. But these materials, I do want to mention, they're not available in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. These KLC materials are only available for my Kindergarten Literacy Club members. So plus, one last thing, in addition to all of that you get every month, there's also a ton of stuff waiting for you in your login area. And if you're already a member, don't forget that you have all of this stuff. First and foremost, you of course have access to our closed Facebook group just for Kindergarten Literacy Club members. That's for ideas, support. If you don't have Facebook, no big deal. I email stuff, so you're not going to miss anything. In your login, you also have 4 1 to 1.5 clock hours, and you get the certificate. You have 4 kindergarten PD webinars. Watch them anytime you want. They don't disappear. They're always there for you. You have assessments. So maybe you want to assess letters, sounds. Maybe you want to assess phonological awareness, or can kids handle books at the beginning of the year? That's in there for you as well. There's a book list that has like 43 pages of suggested read alouds, app lists broken down by like what skills they cover. One of my favorite things is this if-then intervention toolkit, where you're like, okay, kids are struggling with rhyming, and then it'll give you like strategies to use to help them. So there's all kinds of different skills in there. I have a back to school guide with what's in there. So in there, I have like procedures and routines to teach, a checklist for you. I have name activities. I have a scope and sequence for the whole year for reading, writing, phonics, phonological awareness. So this is all available to you. It's a lot of stuff, but it's available to you as soon as you become a member, as soon as you join. It's all there. And that's in addition to the monthly stuff that you get. So I just wanted to provide you with these like essential things that you can come back to and have in one place. So maybe last school year was stressful. Maybe it was hectic for you. Or maybe this is your first year teaching and you're feeling overwhelmed, but I want to help you make this a really fantastic year. So I just want you to think about, what is it going to be like to log into your Kindergarten Literacy Club, and you can find book titles for your read alouds. You have your centers there. You can grab guided reading books. You can get ideas for students who are struggling. And you're logging in and you're having this all in one place. So you're not searching everywhere on Pinterest, which takes time. You're not trying to find a file that like who knows where it is. It's all in one place for you. And that would be a big relief, right? So I would love to welcome you into our KLC. We have just the most awesome group of teachers. They're so helpful and kind to each other and just willing to share. And that's what the giveaway is. I'll be doing that in 1 second here. 6-month membership is what the giveaway prize is. If you're not a winner, I just want to quickly share some information about what a membership costs. So if you decide to get a monthly membership where you can just, you can try it out a month, see if you like it, see if it's helpful to you, that's just $12. That's 39 cents a day. So that's one option for you. Then there's the 6-month membership, which again is the giveaway prize. That is $60. And the advantage of getting a 6-month membership is that you end up getting 1 month free. And then last but not least, if you wanted to do 12 months in one chunk, you actually only pay for 9 months. So that is another option as well. Alrighty, let's do our giveaway. I'm going to pull up a list of everybody who is here live. And we will get some new KLC members in here. Okay. Sunday. By the way, just one last time, I've said this before, but if for some reason you can't chat, I am going to ask my winners, if you hear your name, to let me know that you're here and just say I'm here in the chat box. But if you can't chat, I totally understand. No worries. I've got your name here. But I'll just need you to email me. So our first winner is Sally. Sally, ttps@gmail. Sally, let us know if you are here. And then Sally, you're also going to need to email me so I can get you all set up with your membership and welcome you into the club. Alrighty, our next winner is Angela. Angela Hoffman at Rogers.com. Angela, let us know if you're here. Just copying and pasting these names. Next winner is Becca. Becca, I think, must be in my area if I'm seeing this email correctly. Becca is RWOMELDORF@WCPSS.net. Becca, let me know if you're here. I'm going to pull a few more. Margaret, Margie7240 at AOL. Margie, let us know if you're here. Last winner is Lauren. Lauren Fluellen, it looks like, at Yahoo. Lauren, let us know if you are here. Awesome. All right. If you were not a winner, first of all, if you were a winner, congratulations. I'm super excited. Put the link up here. I'm super excited to welcome you into the club. We've already got some new members that joined earlier today, so super excited to have you. But if you were not a winner, I would still love to serve you and support you in the club. The club is only open for new members through Friday, August 23rd. So not this Friday, but the next Friday. It's a little bit different. Some of you may know that I have a TPT store, and like with those products, I may have a sale, but you can get them anytime. This is a little bit different because I want to make sure to, focus on my new members. And so for that reason, I only open up for a limited amount of time. So not accepting new members after Friday, August 23rd, and I won't be accepting new members again until January. So January 2020. So when the KLC closes at the end of the day on August 23rd, you won't be able to join again until January, unfortunately. So I shared the link with you if that's something you're interested in. Just make sure that you take a look before that date because I do not want you to miss out. And let's go ahead and do our freebie. I'll put the KLC link up again. It's just kindergartenliteracyclub.com, but I want to share that freebie link with you. All right, so we went 15 minutes over. I tried to stay to an hour, but I always have so much that I want to say. If you have to leave us, I totally understand. I hope that this was helpful. I hope you got some ideas to take into your classroom. If the freebie link doesn't work for whatever reason, know that I am going to be emailing it out to you, so no worries there. So if you do have to leave us, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate your time. And if you can stay, I would love to answer more questions. Whether you have questions about like something that I talked about an hour ago, please retype. I'm sorry that I missed it. Or if you have questions about the Kindergarten Literacy Club, feel free to ask. But I would love to hang out with you guys and answer all those questions I missed. That's awesome, Jordan. Yes, Ziba, I should have mentioned this too. In that email, you should get it, I want to say like 45 minutes, hour and a half from now. Look in your spam if you don't see it. In that email, I'll send the slides, I'll send the Kindergarten Literacy Club link, I'll send the freebie, I'll send, is there anything else? The certificate of attendance. So you will be getting all of that in your email. Wait and see if you get something. And if you don't get something by tomorrow morning and it's not in your spam, you can email me and let me know that you didn't get it, but give it till tomorrow morning. And then also to check your like promotions tab. Sometimes those like freebie emails get in there. I'm not sure why, but my email address is alison@learningattheprimarypond.com if you want to like add me as a contact in your email to make sure that you get everything that I'm sending you. Thank you, Robin. I'm so glad that this was inspiring. Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate that. You are welcome, Becca. Oh yeah, and all my winners, by the way, do need to email me just so I can get your club login all set up. Holly says, why do you suggest kids reading less than 50 words per minute, not do independent reading, only partner? Oh, Holly, I wasn't suggesting that. I'm not sure I'm following your question, but I do have kids doing independent reading. I didn't suggest that. Maybe you're thinking of somebody else, or maybe I'm not understanding correctly. Giovanna says, if I join for a month, can I renew my membership? Yes, for sure. So the way it works is if you do the monthly membership, it will automatically renew, but you can also cancel. So like you joined today, August 11th, then on September 11th, it would renew for the next month. So you wouldn't like lose access or lose any of your materials. That would happen automatically, but you can also just take your payment information out if you find that it's not, a right fit for you. Jordan says, I have a student with autism that can segment a word, but when trying to blend, he gives me a deer in headlights look. He can tell me the individual sounds in the word at or at, but then I get an I don't know if I ask what the word is. Any ideas? It's an IEP goal of his and I feel stuck. So I feel like, Jordan, that's something that like I've seen and that a lot of teachers have seen too, but some things that are going to help is one, I wonder if you're doing this with letters on the page, because you can, if you just have him do it with listening, that might be a little bit, more easy for him to practice listening before you throw in letters. Another thing is to make sure that his ability to produce letter sounds is like very quick, because if he's thinking a long time about producing each sound, that can slow him down. I would really just have him practice without letters, without reading anything first. Do a lot of that and see if that helps. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for coming. Linda says, do you have a list of your favorite big books to use? I don't know that I have a list. I pretty much just take whatever I can get, but I love, I think it's The Doorbell Rang. I'm looking over there because I have a bookshelf. It's not a big book, but I have the little book version. Three Billy Goats Gruff. I've had different schools. I've had different ones. Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. Three Little Pigs, like a variety of things, but I like a lot of fairy tales and things that have repetitive refrains. Thanks, Alicia. I appreciate that. Okay, Shelly says, if you join monthly and then love it, can you prepay for the 6-month membership? Yeah, so if you're like, okay, I just kind of want to try it out, but then I might want to save, I might want to get 1 month free or get 3 months free later, and I will put up the link again. You absolutely can do that. As long as you're in before August 23rd, you're able to upgrade. But if you're not in, this page that I linked to, kindergartenliteracyclub.com, if you're not in by August 23rd, then that page goes away. Like actually, I take it down and you can't get in that way. But if you're already in, then you're good and you're welcome to upgrade if you want to do that in the future. You are welcome, Tiffany. I'm so glad it was helpful. Thank you, Claire. Anna says, are there any more webinars coming up during the school year? Yes, for sure. So I will not be doing, so in the KLC, we do our monthly, like our monthly webinars that are just for KLC members, but kindergarten specific webinars for everybody that are open to everybody. I will do one of those again in January. I usually do one in January, one in August, and that's about it. But I'm doing one on grammar, a live one on grammar too, that's coming next month. As long as you signed up for this webinar and you say stay signed up, I will email out and just let you know when that's coming. But yes, for sure. So September and then January. And I also do, if you use Facebook, I do Facebook Lives on my Facebook page. Actually should have mentioned that this Thursday, I think it is, I will be doing a Facebook Live where I show you inside the Kindergarten Literacy Club. So you can join me for that if you're interested too. I'll share my screen and show you exactly what you get when you join. Becca says, we have a limited amount of time for a literacy block. We are told when to do Letterland phonics. What part of a balanced literacy would you be sure to include? Example, shared reading. Awesome question. I have heard, I forget, some people, I don't remember if people were saying they liked Letterland or they didn't, but I would, Becca, you can go to my website, which is different from the Kindergarten Literacy Club. It's learningattheprimarypond.com, and there's a ton of blog posts. And Becca or anybody else, if you go to the search bar at learningattheprimarypond.com, you can type in kindergarten schedule or kindergarten balanced literacy schedule, and you can see some sample schedules. I've taught in a full day program. I've also taught, I was co-teaching in a half day program. So I have both options if that would be helpful to you. Kimberly says, do you do a letter sort with every letter? I do. It's really like a phonological awareness, like first sound sort. Nicole says where to find a book list for read alouds. Nicole, I mentioned that one that I have in the KLC membership. Was it like a specific, I don't know that I've shared one for read aloud specifically other than the one that's in the KLC. I have shared mentor texts if that's maybe what you're looking for. Hannah, yes, you're absolutely welcome to join for sure. Yes, so Jocelyn's asking about this webinar because there was a lot of information. Knock on wood, knocking on my desk. As long as it's recorded correctly, you will also get the recording. Now the recording will be good for I want to say 10 days, I think the link will work for. But then after that, it does go away. So if you want to rewatch, try to rewatch before that 10 days so the link doesn't expire. For my KLC members, I will give you the permanent link for this. Katie says, thanks so much. I'll sign up for the KLC. Yay. Excited. Okay. Holly says, I'm sorry. I follow several people. Yes, ma'am. Wrong person. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that wasn't me. You're so welcome, Janet. Rose Mezzi, I think. Thank you for this amazing webinar. I've got a lot of takeaways and use in my own classroom. Awesome. Jennifer says, just curious how you got the scope and sequence for the order you introduced the letters. So Jennifer, where that scope and sequence came from, and by the way, there is no one correct scope and sequence, but what I did is I chose the letters, and there is a technical word for this, and continuous sounds. There we go. I always forget what it is. I chose the letters that have continuous sounds first. So letters that have continuous sounds are the vowels, a, I, S. I'm trying to think of what else. Letters like that have continuous sounds, but usually those are easier for kids to learn, just the sounds, than letters like B, because they stop. They're not a continuous sound. You can't keep saying the sound. And so the order that you'll see in there, again, there's lots of, wonderful scopes and sequences out there that work, but I put those first because there's some research that shows that those sounds are easier for kids to master first. That's why I put them toward the beginning. Oh, a couple of people were asking about Spanish, and I apologize for not answering this. Unfortunately, I do in my TPT store, I have a couple of things in the bilingual section, but in the Kindergarten Literacy Club, it's trying to make me go there. In the Kindergarten Literacy Club, the materials are just in English. So I apologize for all my bilingual teacher friends, but it's just in English. Amy. So Amy, I wasn't sure if you're asking, she says, how long do you do your shared reading block? For shared reading, like I would say like 10, 15 minutes, the whole literacy block. It honestly just depends on what time I have, what time is given to me by my school. But in those sample schedules at learningattheprimarypond.com, if you go to kindergarten schedules, there's a lot of different ones that you can look at if that's helpful for you. Marissa, I'm so glad this was helpful. Lisa says, if I'm currently a monthly KLC member, is there a way to switch over to a 6-month or an annual membership? Yes, 100%. Lisa, just email me and say, hey, I'm a monthly member and I want to switch over to 6 months or annual. You absolutely can do that. I can get that set up for you so that you can get either your month free or your 3 months free. Awesome, Tammy. Thank you so much for coming. Yes, so my email, I'll put a little sticky note up here. I know I'm like behind on the chat, by the way. Sorry, I'm working my way up slowly. I've got a lot of awesome teachers on here tonight. Thanks, guys, for everybody who was typing it in. Giovanna says, first year teaching kinder, pretty nervous. Oh, I'm so glad that this helped. So glad that this helps. Julie says, have you read David Kilpatrick's Success for Reading? He suggests to teach similar looking letters, PBDQ at the same time. Would you agree with this? So I haven't read that. Is that something I kind of want to, I love teaching books, kind of want to look it up now and see if I should add it to my Amazon list. I've always heard like, don't teach them together, but in some ways it does make sense, right? Because you can really have the kids compare like, oh, well, the P has the tail going down and the B has, the line going up. So like, I don't know that I have a very informed opinion about it, but I absolutely see that working because you're getting the kids to compare and contrast them. Whereas if you do, like the P a couple weeks ago, they might vaguely remember that it looks like the B and get confused. But if you're actually actively comparing and contrasting them, I see how that would be really helpful. Amy says, Wishy Washy are awesome big books. Yes, I love Mrs. Wishy Washy, Joy Cowley. I think it is all of her big books. And Hannah, yes, if you didn't hear my answer, you absolutely are welcome to join the KLC for sure. Oh, Jordan says she has the big book of the kissing hand. That's awesome. I actually have in the back to school guide or whatever in the KLC, I actually have a little activity for the kissing hand. Jordan said she won a big book version. That's awesome. KB says, do you have a webinar that shows me how to start literacy centers, how to set up and organize your literacy centers that work? Yes, go ahead and email me for that and just retype your questions. So remember. Okay, so Jana's asking about my Facebook page. Let me copy that for you. I will stick that in the little sticky note here. I had my email address in there, but I'll put it back in. There's my Facebook. It's just, if you just search on Facebook for Learning at the Primary Pond, then it should pop up. And like I said, on Thursday, I will be I believe 7 p.m. Central, I'll show everybody the whole inside of the Kindergarten Literacy Club so you can kind of see what you're getting. Elizabeth, yes, I will be emailing that certificate to you. I set it up to go out automatically. You can add me as a contact, check spam, check promotions, check everywhere. And if you don't see it by tomorrow morning, then feel free to just respond back to one of those reminder emails and I can send it to you, whatever you're missing. The slides will be in there too. Okay, so Jessica says, how do you differentiate phonemic blending and segmentation? My students last year got confused and I struggled with being clear on how to separate them. Gotcha. So I think whenever we're doing a task like that, I'm assuming you're just kind of meaning like, orally, like a little phonological awareness activity. So I think the most important part is just to model for them a couple times. And actually, this really helps too. If you're like, okay, boys and girls, we are going to segment some words. So that means you're going to tell me all the sounds that you hear in the word. I'll say a word, then then I want you to listen to me segment the word. So you can say cat, and then you by yourself while they're listening say at. Okay, let's do it together. Then you all do at. Okay, now you at. So you're segmenting the same word 3 times. And you don't necessarily have to do that for every word that you do, Jessica, but if you do that for a couple of them, then that might help them get the picture. so that they don't get confused. And same thing with blending. Maybe you say the sounds and then you say the word with them and then they say the word on their own, just to kind of, so they understand what they're supposed to be doing. Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate that. Jacqueline says, would you consider a kinder math club? So it's definitely not on my radar right now because I'm trying to open the 1st and 2nd grade literacy club, hopefully in January. I'll never say never. I do really like teaching math. As a classroom teacher, in some ways, I was like even stronger in teaching math. I felt like because it's so concrete, whereas literacy is a little bit more, it's a little bit more subjective. I love teaching math. It's probably not on the radar right now, but I'll never say never. Oh, Nicole, the mentor text list. That is, Nicole, I actually have one on my blog. If you go to learningattheprimarypond.com and then in the search bar, search for writing mentor text, you should be able to find a big one there. Janet says, when you teach letter sounds using an alphabet chart, do you teach both sounds for the vowels and the letters G and C? I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer to it. I introduce the long vowels later and the sounds of G and C later, not necessarily in kindergarten with the G and C, but that's just what I do. Anna, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm excited to have you in the KLC. Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Okay, so Christina says if you join for a year, even 6 months, then you're not able to cancel until your time is up. So Christina, if you were to pay for like 6 months or a year, you've already paid for that in full. So if you cancel, there really wouldn't be anything to cancel. But when your membership comes up to renew 6 months out, then you could cancel, or a year out, then you could cancel. But you're paying for it all in one chunk. So there's really not anything to cancel per se until it renews the next time. Okay, so does membership start in August and then at the end of each school year? So it's really up to you. Your membership, you can do 1 month, try it out. Your membership can end in September if that's what you want. Or you can have the 6 months, and that's 6 months from now, whatever month that is. What is that, like February? Or you can do the whole thing where it would end next August. It's really up to you, whatever works best for you. He just says, how do you first start teaching rhyming if they have no prior knowledge? So going back to that rhyming slide. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy by scrolling back so fast. I kind of had broken it down here, and you'll have that on the slides that get emailed to you. What you don't want to do is you don't want to start with generating rhymes. You don't want to ask them, okay, what rhymes with house? Because they're not going to be able to tell you what rhymes with house. And so what I really like to do when I'm introducing rhymes at the beginning of the year, and I feel like they're not going to know what rhyming even means, is I will take songs, poems, big books that rhyme, and I'll just start pointing out, hey, hat, cat, those words rhyme. And I do it over and over and over again, and I use lots of rhyming books, songs, and eventually the kids start picking it up. Oh, this and this. Hey, those words rhyme. And they start saying it too. They start noticing those things. And that's a really natural and fast way to do it. And then I might start asking them, hey, do hat and cat rhyme? Do those rhyme? Do they sound the same at the end? Things like that. So we just progress. We don't start here for sure. I like to start with books, songs, kind of more natural stuff, and then eventually take it to here and here and here, if that makes sense. Amy, so definitely check out learningattheprimarypond.com for the day-to-day daily schedule. Just search for kindergarten schedule and you will see that there. And then where do you guys get your big books? So other people may have answers for this, but for me, I've just used the ones that I have. I know some libraries, like at least in the past, maybe 10 years ago, they would have, just like your public library could have big books. I don't know if they still do. But I'm trying to think of websites that have them. Amazon has like a few. Sometimes they're not cheap. It kind of depends. Anna says, if I join the KLC but don't have a Facebook, can I still see the Facebook Lives? Do they replay? Yeah, so Anna, for the Facebook Lives, that's actually, I don't really go live in the group very much. Our little monthly chat actually happens, we use a software called Zoom. So you don't have to be on Facebook at all to do really anything in the Kindergarten Literacy Club, except join our community and like chat with other teachers and ask for help and talk to them. But you know, everything else that I listed, you get, and you don't need to be on Facebook. Teresa says, even though I teach first grade, this was a very good reminder of taking it slow with my kiddos. Awesome. I'm so glad that this was helpful, even though you teach first. Super. Alrighty. Well, I hope I didn't miss any questions. If I did, do feel free to email me those reminder emails. I don't think they look like they come from me, but I believe if you reply back to them, you should get to my inbox. And, sometimes it takes me like a day or two to get to the emails, but I'm happy to answer your questions. So feel free to email me whether you have questions about what we talked about, or if your stuff doesn't come through tonight, or if you have questions about the KLC, feel free to email me. Happy to talk with you. Your certificate and everything should be coming to you. Like I said, on Thursday, 7 p.m. Central, I'll give everybody a look inside the Kindergarten Literacy Club so you can see all the goodies that are in there. I've already got some new members joining, so if you've joined, I'm super excited to welcome you. I want to support you. If you are a KLC member, either now or you're becoming one, don't forget that I am here for you. And so are all the other members in our Facebook group. So if you're struggling, reach out to me. I definitely want this to be not just about the stuff, but about the support as well. So I'm here for you. Again, if you think of questions later, feel free to email me. And thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. And if I don't talk to you, an awesome start to your school year.